Okay, guys, now we are going to work on the different types of insect orders. This is going to help you with your insect collection. There are 30 different types of insect orders. Um, there's a table in the book, a table 15.1, that'll list all the major orders. I'm going to go through a lot of the major orders with you. The four most overriding ones, the four most insects are going to be in the four, are going to be Coleoptera, Lepidoptera, Diptera, and Hymenoptera. So these are going to be the ones that, if you collect a bug, you'll probably be in one of these more often than not. The first one is Coleoptera. Coleoptera are the beetles. They are Holometabolous. If you remember from the last video, Holometabolous meant that they did a complete change. Beetles start out as grubs. So grubs are the larval form of beetles, and then they grow, they go through the pupa stage and eventually emerge as an adult beetle. 40% of all insects in the world are Coleoptera, are beetles of some kind. 25% of all species of animal are actually beetles. So they are really most of the insects we have in our world. They have a hardened outer coat called an elytra here. And this is actually a harder, it's kind of considered its first wing, a set of wings, but it's hard. It doesn't do anything in flying. It protects the wings below that. So this forewing is this hardened protective wing. And then it moves out of the way and you see their wings when they fly away. They, feeding habits are specific to which kind you're talking about. Some chew, some suck, some do all kinds of other things. There are a few pests in these. There's the Colorado potato beetle and the boll weevil. Those are going to be pests. And then there's the beneficial beetles that are help with pollination, like the ladybird beetles or ladybugs. Coleus means sheath. So that's talking about that elytra, that hardened forewing. So that hardened wing protects it. And then below that is the next second wing, the hind wing. And that's what actually they fly with. So they've got that membranous hind wing that they fly with. The next one is Lepidopteras. Lepidopteras are butterflies and moths. Butterflies and moths are also holometabolous. So again, they change. They start out as a caterpillar, and they go through a pupa stage, and then end up as an adult. As caterpillars, they have chewing mouth parts. They chew. They're herbivores. They only eat feed on nectar and plants. As adults, they have sucking mouth parts and they're only going to be drinking the nectar, and they have scale colored wings. And that's literally what Lepidoptera means. Lepis means scale, and the patera refers to wing. So they're scale winged. The reason why they have these pretty colors is because of the overlapping scales that make the different designs. There are a few pests, the codling moth and the gypsy moth. We know they can eat clothes and other damaged crops and stuff like that. But most butterflies and moths are great for pollination. So lepis again means scale. They have two membranous wings, two sets of wings, the forewings and the hind wings. And they have those overlapping scales that create these patterns, and they include the butterflies and the moths. The next order is Diptera. Diptera are the flies. They are also holometabolous. So now you know that they're the maggots and they turn into adults. They have one pair of wings, that single pair of wings coming off of it here. They are going to come from the metathoracic wings, so they're going to come from the middle of their wings. They have sponging, sucking, or lapping mouth parts as adults, in all trophic levels, which means that as a maggot all the way up to an adult. The larva can be complete or partially complete head capsules, so their head may not be fully developed. They can be pests in the way that some flies will transmit diseases, but they're also very beneficial because they are predators for parasitic insects, and they also help with pollination. So di means two. They have two wings, one set, two wings. And again, these are your flies and mosquitoes. The last of the most important ones are Hymenoptera. Hymenoptera are your ants, bees, and wasps. So ants fit into this bees and wasps category. It may not feel like that. Also holometabolous. So they start out as a larva and then go through a pupa stage and then become an adult. Now, you may not know that because you don't usually see the larval stage. They're usually in the hive or the nest at that time. There's two pairs of membranous wings, just like the flies had. The metathorax is really reduced and fused with the first abdominal segment. They are a highly evolved social system. Those sawflies are going to be pests, but otherwise they are really greatly beneficial with their pollination, honey, and wax. Okay, so all the different types of orders. The ones that we just went over, remembering Diptera meant flies, Coleoptera meant beetles, Lepidoptera are your moths and butterflies, and Hymenoptera were your bees, wasps, and ants. Other ones are your Siphonoptera are fleas, so if your dog has fleas, you can collect that. Orthoptera are your crickets and grasshoppers. That's going to be a pretty common one. Let me go back. Homoptera are your cicadas, tree, and leaf hoppers. Hemiptera are your stink bugs or true bugs. Plecoptera are your stoneflies. Neuroptera are lacewings. I already said Hymenoptera. Isoptera are your termites. Odonata are dragon and damselflies. Dermoptera are your earwigs. Ephemoptera are mayflies. Anaplura is lice. Thysanoptera are thrips. Mecoptera are scorpion flies. And Trichoptera are caddis flies. So Orthoptera, ortho means straight. Just like the Coleoptera had, they have this forewing that is kind of protective. It's straight. These are going to be your walking sticks, your mantises, your cockroaches, your crickets, and your long and short-horned grasshoppers. They all have chewing mouth parts. They usually have two pairs of wings. The fore one is very parchment-like, not as hard as it is with beetles. And then the hind wing is membranous. Sometimes it can be quite colorful. As you're collecting insects, you may realize that you see a grasshopper, you go after it, and then it flies away, and you're like, "Oh, I didn't realize I had wings," or maybe you did realize. Also, sometimes you might see something flying and you think it's a butterfly, and then it lands and you go to catch it and you realize you've caught a grasshopper. That happens with some of these that have more colorful hind wings. Sometimes, like in crickets, the wings are absent. So it just depends on what type of Orthoptera we are talking about. Isoptera are your termites. They are equal winged. They are wingless, or they have two pairs of narrow wings along their back. So you may see them, these are all wingless, but sometimes they have two pairs of narrow wings along their back, and they all have antennas. So these are your termites. Their backs are going to be more straight. Neuroptera are going to be your lace wings. This is kind of tells you why it means nerve winged. And so what it looks like is a net of nerves going through. So that's what they're named for, these membranous lacy wings. Ephemoptera are going to be your mayflies. Ephemoptera is ephemeros, which means living but a day. As an adult, they only live 1 day. Now they live longer than that as a nymph, but as an adult, they live as 1 day. And they have these two filaments coming off their tail as a big indicator of what you're looking at. Odonata are going to be your dragonflies and damselflies. And otis means tooth. They have chewy mouth parts, so that's where they get their name from. They have two pairs of wings, very membranous. Usually they're either equal size, the hind wing and forewing are equal size, or sometimes the hind wing is just a little larger. And they're very membranous. Sometimes you see that they get a little parchment-like towards the closer you get to the body of the insect. Hemiptera are half-winged. So if you look at them, they have more of a parchment membrane, part of a wing closer to their body, and then it becomes very membranous at the end. So at quick glance, it looks like they only have half a wing. So they have a whole wing, but it looks like a half a wing. So that's why they're called Hemiptera. These are going to be your true bugs. They include squash bugs, assassin bugs, water boatmen. So the forewing is thick at the beginning and very membranous at the end. Homoptera are going to mean, homos means same. They have two identical shaped wings that create two pairs of wings that are uniform thickness all the way through. And they actually hold over the back kind of like the sides of a roof. So these are going to be your cicadas and your tree hoppers and leaf hoppers. All right. Then there are other phylogenetic considerations. There's the clade Panarthropoda. These are arthropodas and two smaller phyla that are sister taxa, the Oncophora, which are very close related to the arthropods, and the Tardigrades. If you've watched the Ant-Man movie, they have large tardigrades, and they're also known as water bears. They fit with arthropods because they have similar forms of metamerism. They have paired appendages. They go through molting, and they do have a hemocoel. The phylum Oncophora are your velvet or walking worms. There's 110 free living species. They are all terrestrial in humid tropical, subtropical regions. And they have their dioecious. They have different sexes, male and female. They have internal fertilization, and they can either lay eggs or live birth. Phylum Tardigrada are your water bears. They live in marine interstitial regions or in freshwater detritus, which means the plants that are kind of decaying. They also live in water films or of terrestrial lichens, liverworts, and mosses. There are 800 species of these, and they can go into this extended period of cryptobiosis or suspended animation where they don't move, they don't do they don't look alive at all. But when survival can happen, they will actually come alive again, like come alive. They live from 1 to 60 or 70 years with those cryptobiosis, so these can last forever. Now, they're not actively living during some of that time when they are in that suspended animation, but they can. So here is a picture of your tardigrade and a picture of a velvet worm, the phylum Oncophora. So we just talked about the different kinds of orders that go with the class Insecta. Take a moment, make sure you go over them and you identify each of your insects correctly for your insect collection. All right, bye guys.